Mark Carney's plan is already backfiring. It is the most dangerous plan Canada has ever seen. He confirmed his plan in Europe, and mainstream media is even calling him out, saying that there is zero benefit to his plan, only risk. This could end Canada as we know it, unless Canadians wake up before it's too late. Hiring this Governor General was potentially the wake-up call that Canadians needed, because it sets the tone to where Mark Carney wants to take this country, and Canadians are rejecting that vision. Let's get into this report. Mark Carney just broke one of Canada's most important rules. This pick changes everything. How bad is this? If you wanted to move away from the radical left woke ideology, today is not your day. Policy decisions will be filtered through ideology instead of common sense. I'm frustrated today. So frustrated. I want to explain who I am. I'm a realist. I see something and I ask myself, does this make any sense? Common sense is my language, and I live by this every single day. I fully reject woke ideology 100%. Ideology makes us divided into little segments and pieces so that they can control us all. They don't want us all united. Canada's Governor General is a far left activist, a WEF puppet, and the absolute worst choice the Liberals could have made for us and in this role. You know, everything that the left stands for, DEI hire, based on your skin color. There should be no skin color. We're all human. Or by your gender, or inclusivity, instead of hiring based on competence or merit, or just common sense. You know, these lefties, they believe in open borders, men in playing in women's sports, or tampons in male washrooms, universal basic income. Everything they stand for is backwards in their progressive clown world.
To be here today.
It's incredible. Look, this is the essence of Canada. This is the essence of Canada. We are who we want to be. We love who we want to love. Come together, diversity, and in a very positive way.
But this appointment does make sense if you want to end your relationship with the United States, which have fully rejected the radical woke agenda. And the US have moved on a more merit-based system, a common sense system. And Mark Carney stood today by his statement he made in Europe, saying that the new world power is going to be the EU, and we're going to be joining this new world power, rejecting common sense altogether.
Either fully support or moving towards those principles. So that's what I meant by those comments, and I stand by them.
He's also rejected America altogether. This is a dangerous move, Canada. What is Trump going to do, knowing that the country just to the north of him is trying to cut him out from the world superpower? Why is this so dangerous? Because, newsflash, the United States still holds the world reserve currency. They're still the #1 economy on the planet. They also have the biggest and strongest military on the planet. And Canada is the #1 customer to the United States, with 75% of all our trade, representing $1.2 trillion per year in trade with the United States. Again, common sense would tell you, let's go with our neighbor, the one that we've been friends with for over 150 years. But nope, let's go with woke ideology instead of using common sense. These liberals, they just go with their emotions. They act like little babies. If you're not going to listen to me or listen to us, we're going to find new friends that share our woke agenda. How is this going to end? I'll let you decide. But the appointment of this brand new Governor General shows and indicates to Canadians the direction that this government wants to take us. A woke European nightmare with joining a collapsing society. The cracks are forming. Mainstream media and other political parties and Canadians are questioning Mark Carney's Canada Sovereign Wealth Fund. Well, we all know it's not a wealth fund, it's a debt fund. You know it's bad. Very bad when all of mainstream media, CBC, everybody's like, this is the worst idea ever. There's no detail. Even the PBO came out and said, there's zero detail of this wealth fund, which is not a wealth fund. People are turning on the Liberal Party and Mark Carney going, this economic genius has zero idea what he's doing right now. Canadians are very concerned. And it's gotten so bad. Even the person that is the furthest left, the absolute furthest left, the person that you would think has zero common sense, comes out and says, hey, Mark Carney, I'm voting with the Conservatives on this one. This wealth fund is a bad idea.
It's an unusual moment, and I think it may be, if my memory serves, the first time I voted with the Conservatives on one of their opposition day motions. They're called supply days. So as you may have heard in the comments that Green Party made following the release of the spring economic statement, we are underwhelmed by the so-called Canada Strong Fund. The Conservative Party opposition day motion, which will be voted on today, later today, much of the verbiage makes me uncomfortable. I wouldn't vote for every line in their preamble. But the bottom line is this, that it isn't a sovereign wealth fund. What's being proposed is dressed up to maybe remind voters of what's done in Norway, where they set aside oil revenue and put it in a fund, for basically a rainy day fund, which means that Norway has a real sovereign wealth fund. What we do know is that it's being created by $25 billion of new debt, which could so much better be spent on things that Canadians need far more. This isn't really a sovereign wealth fund, but if we want to know where the wealth is, we could, for instance, look at the Canada Pension Plan funds, $80 billion controlled by the Canada Pension Plan Investment Board, which under its legislation must only invest in things that have maximum return on investment, which means Canadian pension dollars are mostly invested outside of Canada. That's outrageous. And much in the United States, outrageous. Why don't we repatriate our own pension dollars? Why don't we put in a wealth tax? Why don't we put back a financial transaction tax? Put that money as the basis of a true sovereign wealth fund.
You know it's bad when for the first time in Elizabeth May's career, she votes in favor of a conservative motion. I mean, I would have never thought in my entire life that this could have happened. This is how bad it is, Canada. We're moving along. Now we're starting to find out what this NWO is all about. And get this, it does not include the United States. And later on, I'm going to explain how he is the Liberal Party's secret weapon. The worst part is O'Toole is a fool. He doesn't even see what the Liberals are doing. Now, Mark Carney's plan, his genius economist, math magician, the guy that's coming to save Canada, his plan is so radical. It's so extreme. I believe Canadians are going to wake up and they're going to say, whoa, stop right there, Mark Carney. We no longer need you.
And build a new world order where democracy and Canadian sovereignty is protected.
Mr. Carney, you're up next.
I'm going to associate myself. I'm going to agree with that. The only amendment I'm going to make is, unfortunately, it won't be a world order. It will be a subset of the world order because the number of like-minded countries is much smaller with U.S. exiting. That we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the new world order.
Of Canada being the nation that is helping to define and shape a new world order.
Especially the world's democracies, will be really much poorer if you guys don't get your act together. Because a world in which we need to start relying on China, this is not a world where human rights matter.
Yeah.
This is not a world where democracy matters.
It's my strong personal view that as the international order will be rebuilt, but it will be rebuilt out of Europe. And so I'm very appreciative of the symbolism of this invitation. Thank you.
This new world order thing is going to blow up on Mark Carney. This could be what we were all waiting for. Mark Carney to slip up.
It's the relationship, whatever it may be with Europe, without kind of bandying about the term world order. Like the last time we were talking about it was when the Prime Minister was in China, right? And he talked about it across the table from Xi Jinping and got some, reaction at the time, some flack at the time for like invoking China in that sentence. Do we need to kind of be surmising about whether there is a world order and who leads it?
No, short answer. Certainly doesn't need to be doing that. I don't know if the ad lib part was necessary, right? It's one of those things where maybe he thinks it, maybe he believes it, maybe it's true. I certainly don't know that to be the case, but maybe it is. He's in a position with his experience to have a better handle on that. But even if it is true, I just don't know. Pumping up the people in that room and trying to get people going was necessary in that way. At the same time, risking maybe really irritating your largest trading partner. So I just don't know if it was worth it, whether that's no comment on whether it's true or not.
He definitely did not need to do that. He did not need to poke Donald Trump in the face.
Is joining the EU going to save us?
No, I don't think it's good politics either. There's two types of Canadians right now, Vashi. It's the Canadians who are very secure. They own a house. They've got a pension. They're doing well. And they can indulge themselves in these kinds of political, fancy kind of thoughts of being part of Europe or doing something different and having a middle power and what it means to the great world. And then there's the other kind of Canadians. It's the Canadians that Minister Solomon was just talking about, the ones that are going to be helped in terms of steel and aluminum tariffs. It's the Canadians who are being laid off right now because companies are closing. It's Canadians who are really worried about the fact that it's $1.78 right now at the gas tank. I don't think talking about Europe and joining Europe is necessarily good politics. There's a lot of fires going on here at home in Canada, and a lot of people are going to be judging him based upon what he's saying in other countries and saying, I don't think he gets it. Like, is he out of touch? That's a very dangerous place for a Mark Carney to be, given his incredible resume and the fact that he has survived in these very different places for so long that haven't necessarily been in the more middle class of Canada, which is truly suffering in the moment.
Nope, he doesn't get it. And he is completely out of touch. Did you know Mark Carney doesn't know what the price is of strawberries? He's never had to buy strawberries in his entire life. He was asked, he's like, I'm sorry to respond to this question like this, but I don't know. I have a servant purchase all my groceries. So I have no idea. Maybe, just maybe, he knows how much gasoline prices are because he has a chauffeur drive him around the city. So he has time to look out the window and go, damn, $2.30 a liter in Vancouver today. But he probably looks and says, yes, I want that gas price at $10 a liter so that I could sell my EVs to every single Canadian. But we don't have enough energy for the amount of demand today. That's okay. That's okay. You know what? They could just all walk. You know that the wheels are falling off the bus for Mark Carney when his very own bought and paid for CBC is not buying Mark Carney's European vision.
For The Economist. Rob, interesting comment from the Prime Minister there to start that the new world will be built out of Europe. What do you make of that declaration by Mark Carney today?
I would like Europe to start by ratifying CETA. I think we signed CETA in 2017. That's 9 years ago. And more than a third of the European countries haven't
It's
ratified.
provisionally in effect for the most part, but there's some parliaments that haven't gotten around to it.
But I think that illustrates one of the problems with the suggestion that the EU is where the future lies. It operates by consensus. It does not operate in a sprightly manner. The Prime Minister said he wants to move at speeds never seen before and do things never done before. That's not Europe. Their growth is puny. If there is growth, they are like Canada, unable to defend themselves. And they need to ramp up in a hurry. Some countries, like Germany, are doing that. But in the meantime, they need the backstop of the United States, just like Canada, in the interim, needs the United States as well. Boris Pistorius, 6 weeks ago, the defense minister of Germany, said that the United States remains the indispensable nation to European defense. And I know Trump.
And then they pulled 5,000 troops out of Germany.
That's right. And I think more worrisome than that is the fact that they're talking about not deploying Tomahawks and hypersonics that were supposed to go into Germany, not to defend Germany, but to defend Ukraine. And so there is much to worry about before we jump into the arms of the Europeans.
Right. I mean...
You think? I mean, they have zero growth. I think the largest growth is like 0.9%. The economies are barely growing. You're telling me that we're going to move away from an economy just south of us, the number one economy on the planet that's growing at 4.4%. Our forecast is 1.5% this year. We're going to move away from our number one trading partner to go to zero growth in the EU. You know, Mark Carney, his election promise was, if you pick me, I'm going to get you the very best deal with the United States because I'm an economic genius. I'm the guy that's going to win with the U.S. It's been a whole year. We found out that he hasn't spoken to the U.S. in 7 months. Canadians are starting to realize that Mark Carney is literally sabotaging our relationship with the United States. Let's take a look at Kate Harrison. Oh boy, she is bang on with her analysis.
Indispensable nations.
Yeah, Eurovision is a great reality TV show. It is not necessarily great foreign policy for Canada. I do think the Prime Minister is chasing a bit of a high here from the Davos speech in terms of, declaring the existing international order to be dead, and perhaps he's speaking to an audience where that message is popular. But if you are going to go to a global audience and talk about this disruption and the brutalism that exists, then you have to be prepared for that boomerang to come back around. And I think it has come back around on the Prime Minister in terms of China. The Chinese envoy just last week said that Canada's would be wise in the eyes of the strategic partnership to start decreasing presence in Taiwan. Don't send your MPs to Taiwan and keep your ships out of the region. Right. So if the Prime Minister is going to make these declarative statements, he should be prepared to answer, okay, are you speaking only about the United States, or how does this foreign policy look and this position look vis-a-vis China and Taiwan, for which the Prime Minister has been silent?
Man, do I like Kate. She's always on point, and she remembers all of the fine details that we all remember, but she says it so perfectly for these wokies right here. She wasn't finished with putting David in his place.
And I'm not saying it won't, because who knows with Donald Trump. But it felt a little bit like the message the Prime Minister had in that Davos speech about the Havel and the shopkeeper taking the sign out of the window. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like he signaled then that they're going to say the things that get it off their chest because, look, Donald Trump keeps making choices and the world keeps paying the price. And this is kind of what he's laying out there, right? But is that deliberately or potentially provocative in your view?
Well, what I would observe based on the Davos speech is that it didn't result in an overwhelming majority of middle powers coming to the table and saying, yeah, Canada's right. What other world leaders are doing are actually saying, okay, that's all well and good, Canada, but we have our own agreements and our deals to strike with the United States. I think that there has been an evolution.
Kate. I mean, all of these term sheets that like Keir Starmer and everyone signed were ruled null and void by the Supreme Court.
You could say the exact same thing about the LOIs and the MOUs associated with.
But the European Union Spain wouldn't let them use their bases. The Brits put limits on things. I mean, they stood up to the U.S. in a way we have not seen the European nations pushed back against them in a long time, and the voters of Hungary got rid of their biggest ally.
And the nature of Canada's trade relationship with the United States is fundamentally different than all of those other countries.
1,000%, yes.
So therefore, it may warrant a different approach. There has been a clear demarcation in the Prime Minister's position on what deal is best for Canada. And I agree with Rob that it can be seen as a provocation. We went from, we will strike a new economic and security partnership with the United States last April, to, hey, actually, the current CUSMA arrangement is pretty good. Okay, this is the best deal that Canada can get. To now the Prime Minister calling it a weakness. What is the position of Canada right now? I do think that this is designed to get some kind of a reaction or condition for bad times ahead. And again, I think that the spring economic statement is going to be indicative of that. And again, at some point, Canadians are going to say, sir, you've had a year telling us that there's troubles ahead in rocky waters. What are you actually doing to fix those problems?
That's the thing. Mark Carney's not fixing any of the problems. He's heading over to a collapsing society in Europe and saying, you are the new world power. And Donald Trump's looking and going, are you guys okay up north? I'm thinking the same thing, Donald. The same thing. We don't even know how we were stuck with this radical wokey. We do have someone with some common sense here in Canada.
Finally, we've already seen how Mr. Carney was wrong about every major economic issue of the last decade. But he's wrong again about something else, and perhaps even more dangerous. He's wrong to suggest that we can have a permanent rupture with our biggest customer and closest neighbor in favor of a strategic partnership for a new world order with the regime in Beijing. A regime the Prime Minister said himself a year ago was the biggest threat to Canada. Let's get real. We sell 20 times more to the United States than we sell to China. That ratio might change a little bit. It might moderate. But at a fundamental level, they will always be our biggest customer. We need a tariff-free deal. We need to get these obstacles out of the way.
That's it for today's report. To think, it's so easy to solve this thing, yet it's just so difficult because Canadians need to wake up in the masses and go, you know what? Our standard of living has collapsed over the last 10 years. We are facing headwinds from the south, from everywhere around the world. We're facing inflation, the worst food inflation in the G7. Our jobs market is collapsing. Youth unemployment's like 15%, in some cities 18%. People cannot afford to buy a home in Canada. We have so many issues that things are getting so bad. People are becoming mentally ill. And if you become mentally ill, there's a committee right now. They're trying to get made approved for mental illness. That's where this country's at. So if we don't wake up and wake up fast, this country's finished. We know the solution. The government needs to get out of the way and common sense needs to come back into Canada for us to prosper. I can't wait for my next report. I'm already working on it. This one's gonna be huge. I'll see you on my next report.